Hey, it's Jon. We're not in Romskip, we're at my house, and I'm going to do a Q&A. So you sent me so many questions, and many of them are amazing, like questions I probably wouldn't have thought out myself. So thank you to all those who sent questions. Keep them coming. I already have content for probably 4 Q&As. So yeah, appreciate that. Keep them coming. Comment below if you have questions on how it is to run a vintage toy store, or if you have questions to me regarding my own collection. Yeah, let's get into it. First question is, what object is most difficult to display in the store? This one comes from Øyvind. Great question. First of all, you have those objects that are just big and for that reason alone is difficult to display. I'm thinking about, for instance, Vintage Master of the Universe Eternia, which is just a massive playset. It measures like at least 1 meter in all directions, 100 centimeters. No idea what that is in inches, probably like, I don't know, 50 inches in each direction. So yeah, Eternia for the size alone, but you have objects in the same category, like almost all playsets. Mobile Command Center from G.I. Joe, if you want to display that in all its glory, with all the terraces expanded, yeah, it takes up quite some space. But you also have those toys, those objects that are just difficult to get standing. I'm thinking about toy lines where if you have them standing close to each other and one of them falls over, they all fall like dominoes. For some reason, I feel like Thundercats usually end up in that category. I suspect it's because, first of all, they're kind of tall, so they are they tend to fall over more easily, and also because over the time they start to have loose legs. Yeah, so I'm going Thundercats as the toy line that's most difficult to display, at least when they're standing in a terrace close to each other. But you also have those objects that are difficult to display because you have so many options. Many of the Transformers are like this, triple changers and 6 changers. How do you display it? How do you display a 6-shot, for instance? You kind of want him to be a robot, but he has so many other great shapes and modes. Yeah, so that's my answer. Eternia for the size, Thundercats for they tend to fall over, and 6-shot because what's his best mode? What would you say is the most difficult object to display? Leave a comment below. Yeah, this one, I couldn't have thought it out myself. I really like questions like this. Questions that I would expect to have are like, what's your opinion on He-Man toys? Which, of course, I will answer, and I really like He-Man and all the He-Man figures. But this one, what do you think of James Bond Jr.? Comes from Marius. Great question. I like to have toys in my shop in Romskip that are somewhat under the radar. Not that well-known toy lines. I like to have it as a complement to the more popular toy lines. James Bond Jr. never saw the cartoon, first of all, but I did see tons of James Bond movies growing up. So I recognize the names of all these characters, but of course I don't have a personal connection to the designs of these. That being said, the 90s era action figures, I hated it back then because it felt like a step backwards when compared to like the 80s Transformers, G.I. Joe, Master of the Universe, even compared to Turtles. The 90s era toy lines with 4 points of articulation, or 5 maybe, it felt like a step backwards looking at, yeah, I'm looking at Hugh Kenner mostly. Of course, James Bond Jr. made by Hasbro in 94 or 95 or something. Today, I love them. I love the color combinations. They're so typical 90s, and there's a few hidden gems in that toy line. Mainly thinking about some of the villains. Walker D. Plank, for instance, great figure, comes out of nowhere. And I like the standard James Bond Jr. action figure with his leather jacket and pistol. It's just a really clean looking action figure. Some of them have great play features. Can't remember the name, but the guy that has this changing, alternating head where you pop down one head and a monster head pops up. It reminds me of the Tiger Sharks toys from LJN. So there's some great action figures in that toy line, worth checking out. Easy toy line to complete, doesn't cost a lot. Yeah, what's not to like? This one is great. It comes from my friend Ray, and he asks, what Donald Duck toy ad made the biggest impression? It's a great one, but for some context, Donald Duck comic sold like 1 million copies each week here in Norway during the 80s and 90s. It made a huge cultural impact. And I believe it was similar in Denmark and Sweden. And I know for a fact that with Sweden, we shared some of the ads specifically for Masters of the Universe. So, I'd like to first start off with a comic from 1984, which shows a Playmobil ad on the back. This one made an impression on me, mainly because I had some of these toys. I probably saw this comic a few years after it was published, and that was how it was. We read these comics over and over. We brought them camping, we read them before bed, and as long as the comic physically held up, we would read it over and over, exposing us to the ads on the back, maybe after the toys were discontinued. But in this case, I got the Playmobil Suzanne fishing boat. It's a fantastic toy, one of the best toys ever made, in my opinion. So yeah, this toy ad made impression, but probably not the biggest. The biggest impression were left by the Masters of the Universe toy ads, and we had many different. Another example here from again from '84 is one of the first earliest toy ads for He-Man and Friends on the back of a Donald Duck comic. You see Castle Grayskull here with the lights and smoke and everything. But the ones that left most impression, I mean, I appreciate the fact that they styled and took pictures and made it lifelike. Some of the Lego ads also made an effort to show the toys in a realistic setting, or rather a setting which felt natural but styled and displayed, and they made dioramas and it. I could appreciate that, but still, the He-Man ads, the Masters of the Universe ads that left most impressions were the hand-drawn ones. I'll show some examples here. Look at this. And probably my favorite of them are the team-up between He-Man and the soft drink. The carton with soft drink is just amazing. And it still to this day make me laugh, because the implications that, not even He-Man is too tough to drink a soft drink. Fantastic. But I like to bring up two honorable mentions, mainly for the reason that by the time I read these ads, the figures were difficult to come by, if at all. The first one is Thundercats, and I like the vibe of this ad. I'll see if I can find a picture of it, but it had some sort of mysterious vibe. It felt like something unobtainable, and of course it was, but I like the mysterious feel of the Thundercats ad. And a similar example is another LJN toy line, which weren't on the back of a Donald Duck comic, but the only comic I know of was an issue of the G.I. Joe comic, which we saw the Bionic 6 team in their secret headquarters. the entire toy line almost in one picture. And these toys, I mean, I read this comic over and over because I love G.I. Joe, but I also liked and felt I was drawn in by the mystery of this toy line, the Bionic 6. This led me to having an entire toy line of Bionic 6 as my personal grail for many years to come, and to this day I'm still in love with this toy line, and I have a good sized collection, and it's all because an ad on the back of a comic. Yeah, so that's my answer to this question. Great question, Ray. What Donald Duck toy ad made the biggest impression? Do you have any examples? Feel free to comment below, because we had so many great toy ads, either for electronic products, media products, candy and chocolate. All the toy lines were on the back of Donald Duck. Barbie, Lego, He-Man, Transformers, they were all there. And yeah, like I said, it made a huge impact, cultural. We still to this day have people talking on various message boards and forums about the cultural and emotional impact that these ads had on us. Yeah, great question. Keep them coming. Now here's a great one from Stian, my good friend and a regular in Romskip. He asks, what would you prefer in your collection? A piece from your childhood collection or a super expensive piece? Wow, that's a tough one, because at some point you could accept childhood memories to be just memories. You don't have to have any physical objects represent that memory, and you rather have the value of that super expensive piece. And I'm talking like prototypes of the most expensive action figures in existence. Rocket firing Boba Fett, for instance. Like if I had a prototype of that one, it would be worth so much that if I were to sell it, I could retire off of that money. That being said, I would give a lot of money to get back my vintage Masters of the Universe collection, which I sold when I was like 16. I regret it deeply, and I would pay like enormous amounts of money to get back those specific figures. I've since, of course, had plenty of those action figures, but of course those weren't my childhood action figures. And some of my most prized action figures in my own collection are from my childhood. Difficult question, and I don't have much better answer than what I just gave, so I'm going to throw this back to you viewers. What would you prefer in your own collection? A piece from your childhood or a super expensive piece? And what would that expensive piece be? And maybe what piece from your childhood do you miss deeply, or do you regret selling or destroying or something like that? Yeah, so that was 4 great questions. Keep them coming. Comment below if you have a question for me regarding Romskip, the vintage toy store in Norway. Or if you wonder about my personal collection, feel free to ask. Yeah, really appreciate all those who took time to write and send me your questions. I'll see you around for the next video, which will probably be some sort of unboxing. Yeah, this is Jon, not in Romskip today, but I'll see you around.